Hello everybody, Souldin of the Grin Brothers here, and you guessed it, it's another episode of Tea Time. I am still doing my routine of Tea Time that I mentioned in the Tea Time episode 18, of which this should be serving as 19 unless it's a problem. And as such, I am still having the same pot of tea as I was before, Tonic Spell. Sounds like I've brewed up a potion here. I'm just going to have it as it is. I may try it with milk in the last tea time for today, but something tells me that this sort of tea won't go well with milk. Just an expectation, but we'll see whether I'm right or wrong. Could just be wrong in regards to other people, but in any case, today's this tea time is a bit more of a serious topic because this is regarding Nintendo and DeNA, or DeNA. For some reason they put an E in it, because they're stupid. But it's pronounced DNA. Yeah. Basically, Nintendo are going to be having their games on mobile platforms, and this tea time's more going to be about explaining my thoughts and feelings on this matter. However, I will give you a brief summary, of which my suggestion would be go to Nintendo Life. They have an article called a guide called Everything We Know So Far About Nintendo's Deal with DeNA, or DeNA, Smart Device Plans and More. And it breaks down basically all the major points that they knew at the sort of forefront, and it's very helpful. Even addressing like Sony used to have shares in DeNA and DeNA. I'm going to call it DeNA anyway. So I'd recommend checking that out, but I can give you a brief summary. Basically, Nintendo announced a partnership with DeNA, of which it will allow DeNA to bring its Nintendo's IPs to new games on smart devices, and in turn, DeNA to deliver services across all platforms, including a loyalty program to replace Club Nintendo. That's basically where it stands. DeNA are a manages and provide infrastructure for mobile and online services in Tokyo, and they have like over 2,000 employees. They've done previous games, including working with Disney, which mostly involved Marvel-based games. Strange how that goes nowadays. Nintendo owns a roughly 10% stake in DeNA. Blah blah blah. That's the parts that you can sort of, they're interesting to hear, but they're not really the heart of what's the case there. Basically, there are no exceptions to what Nintendo IPs can be made for these smart devices. Any Nintendo IP can be utilized. DeNA will be providing the infrastructure, whereas Nintendo will be making the sort of gameplay and design. However, they will vary how much they do of what and what they do per game. As such, Nintendo may sort of like have a huge role in one game aimed to release for smartphones, and then not much of a role in another game. And when it comes to how much they earn through this, it'll be based on who contributed what during the creation of what game, which I frankly think is a pretty cool idea in that regard. Of how they're sort of sharing the money out. They are basically also going to be making a unified account system, sort of connecting 3DS, Wii U, any sort of membership you have on a smart device or PC, as well as Nintendo NX or Nintendo NX. Nintendo NX, meanwhile, is the newest Nintendo dedicated game platform they're working on, which will apparently have a brand new concept. It's potentially the successor to either the 3DS or the Wii U, maybe even both if the rumours of a fusion thing are going on. This was announced early, much farther ahead of time, in order to not sure if that's the right word, or sedate any fears that Nintendo are going third party or anything like that. No. While Nintendo will be allowing games on smartphone devices, they will not be porting any games to, say, their rival platforms, and they will be sticking with their own dedicated hardware. Think of it as like when Sony had that PlayStation All-Stars Island game made for the smartphone devices, or how Microsoft have quite a few of their games come out on PC as well. and Microsoft even allowed some of their games to come out on 3DS because they don't have a competition in the platform gaming market. Sorry, not platform gaming, the handheld market. That's it. I can't believe I messed that up. So basically, that's really all there is to it at the moment. At least as what has been said. There's a lot of other details, which again, I mentioned you should probably check the Nintendo Life article on that. It's a very helpful article and breaks down a lot of additional details. What I'm going to do is mostly share my thoughts and feelings on this. Okay, I am on board the skeptical train. It's full steam ahead, Ed. There is a lot about this, and I'm not one to try and judge so soon. I'm not sure whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. I can see the positives to it. You know, it's not a rival platform they're making games on. It's rather making games on the smartphone devices of which they're not really supposed to be a competitor with. It will help younger people who aren't immediately getting into sort of games, you know, get into games through mobile phones and such, and then lead on to Nintendo games, or hopefully lead on to Nintendo games. It depends on whether Nintendo can provide an experience or DeNA provide an experience which would entice a person to think, this is enough, I want to try out the sort of bigger game or such. If it doesn't, it will at least get their brand recognised, so when other people talk about it, they can, have a shared viewpoint, which again may entice people into the gaming sort of Nintendo hardware and such. It's also the one thing I will say outright is a good idea is the concept of Nintendo having a sort of unified sort of account system and all that. That's generally a really good idea. While I'm actually do not mind having my games actually locked onto hardware, at least back in the day when we actually had memory cards, which I still think is a better system, because I tried to delete saved data before on one of my games on the Xbox One, but god darn, cloud storage makes it such a problem. In any case, I do think that's a good idea, having DeNA sort of make this unified network sort of thing. What I don't think is so much of a good idea is the fact that Nintendo, I feel, are trying to do too much at once. The 3DS and Wii U have already struggled in, games actually being made, because Nintendo have to split their attention between two platforms as well as making hardware and all that. Nintendo really need a lot more people under their employ to sort of do all these sorts of things. They're not quick enough at releasing the games, or at least they were earlier on in the generation. And at the moment, I feel a lot of people feel there aren't that many first-party sort of or second-party 3DS games sort of on the horizon. Well, there's Fossil Fires Frontier if you're living in the US, which I can't get because they haven't announced a European release date for it. I'm still spiteful about that. In any case, I feel they've got a bit too much on their plate, because along with that problem, that earlier on the 3DS and Wii U development was kind of slow, there's also the case that they're also trying to do the quality of life platform as well and try to get that off the ground. And given that it's Nintendo who will be doing the software development, they're not going to be going into other third-party mobile sort of people. They're not lending their IPs out for third parties to make games on the mobiles. It's really worrying how much time it's going to pull away from Nintendo making games. They can assure us all they want, but there is definitely a worry that there's going to be a big strain on things, particularly if the mobile games are successful, in which case shareholders are going to urge Nintendo more into that market. I'm going to ignore the phone. And that's probably the bigger cause of skepticism. Nintendo have a lot to do, and they're trying to do it all at once, and it doesn't look good. They need to employ more people and buy up some studios, because I don't think, as they are with what they're trying to do, they're not a big enough company for it, despite them actually being a fairly big company as it is. And that's kind of my main and key concern regarding all of it. I also feel that, frankly, Nintendo should have looked into other areas to keep their IPs and such recognised, which didn't involve utilising mobile devices. Their IPs are brilliant for translating into other mediums. I've been able to... the cartoons back in the day, although they've not aged brilliantly, were fun. They could have easily sort of tried to get cartoons or animations sort of done of their IPs. The Kid Icarus and Pikmin cartoon shorts and such have been praised to no end. People love them. And yet Nintendo's got a huge bounty of IPs which could have brilliantly translated to either cartoons or animation, or, there was even those rumours of the Zelda TV show on Netflix. Those sort of things. And along with sort of like comic deals or getting books written. There's all these books written based off Fable and Halo and Gears of War, and there's like comics on Ratchet and Clank. Those sort of things I feel is what Nintendo should have done prior to looking into this smartphone idea. Also because I feel those sort of ideas, because Nintendo don't have much experience in those realms of like TV and cartoons, would have been a case of them having to lend it out to third parties much more, as in animation studios and such, and in turn would take less time away from them than I feel actually developing games on other systems would. I feel that venture should have definitely be looked more into, particularly given that they're already trying to do the quality of life program at the same time. So I'm disappointed in the direction it's gone, but I don't think it's immediate doom and gloom. As I said, I'm on the skeptical train for a reason. I'm not going to judge this as immediately bad. And yeah, that's mostly how I stand on this matter. Wish Nintendo went other routes. Heck, even making plushies and figurines. I mean, I can't remember what company it was, but there's these figurines that they keep on making. Not the amiibos here. These beautiful figurines. There was some of Link, Lucina, Kirby. I sure love Kirby. There's even Momohime from Muramasa the Demon Blade. Brilliant figurine. But there's all those sort of figurines and, other toys and such. I can barely find any of these sorts of things in the UK. That's why Amiibo's so... that's part of the reason why Amiibo's so popular. It's really hard to find Nintendo merchandise for some reason. Unless you're looking for Mario stuff. But yeah, so... preferred a different direction. Didn't get that direction. But maybe, given the rumours of the Netflix Zelda TV and the Sony-made Mario animated movie, maybe they'll still try to go with that venture. But with all that's happened now, it feels like too much at once. Too much juggling. In any case, I would love to hear your opinions on this matter, because this is a pretty big matter. Do you think that Nintendo's mobile division is the right idea? Do you think it's the right idea to do it alongside the quality of life? Do you think they should have done with other options beforehand? And was this done simply because they were trying to do the partnership with DeNA for the whole infrastructure thing? That could be the case. They saw, well, already doing the infrastructure thing, we might as well go and do the mobile partnership thing at the same time. Who knows? But feel free to share with me your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. For now, though, thank you for listening, and cheerio, everyone. Oh, wait, let me sip my tea. Yeah, this is a weird tea. And that tasted a bit soapy then. Less soapy then. Cheerio, everyone.